All right, everybody. Sorry, it's been a couple days. We're on chapter 3, A Bright Blue Day. Somehow, Maddie could not buckle down to work. She sharpened her pencil, turning it around carefully in the little red sharpener, letting the shavings fall in a neat heap on a sheet of paper on her desk, not trying to get any dust from the lead on her clean arithmetic paper. A slight frown puckered her forehead. In the first place, she didn't like being late to school. And in the second place, she'd kept thinking about Wanda. Somehow, Wanda's desk, though empty, seemed to be the only thing she saw when she looked over to that side of the room. How had the 100 Dresses game begun in the first place? She asked herself impatiently. It was hard to remember that time when they hadn't played that game with Wanda. Hard to think all the way back from now, when the 100 Dresses was like the Daily Dozen, to then, when everything seemed much nicer. Oh yes, she remembered. It had begun that day when Cecily first wore her new red dress. Suddenly, the whole scene flashed swiftly and vividly before Maddie's eyes. It was a bright blue day in September. No, it must have been October, because when she and Peggy were coming to school, arms around each other and singing, Peggy had said, "You know what? This must be the kind of day they mean when they say October's bright blue weather." Maddie remembered that because afterwards it didn't seem like bright blue weather anymore, although the weather had not changed in the slightest. As they turned from shady Oliver Street into Maple, they both blinked, for now the morning sun shone straight in their eyes, and besides that, bright flashes of color came from a group of a half dozen of girls across the street. Their sweaters and jackets and dresses, blues and golds and reds, and one crimson one in particular, caught the sun's rays like a bright piece of glass. A crisp, fresh wind was blowing, swishing their skirts and blowing their hair in their eyes. The girls were all exclaiming and shouting, and each one was trying to talk louder than the others. Maddie and Peggy joined the group, in the laughing and the talking. "Hi, Peg. Hi, Maddie," they were greeted warmly. "Look at Cecily." What they all were exclaiming about was the dress that Cecily had on. A crimson dress with a cap and socks to match. It was a bright new dress and very pretty. Everyone was admiring it and Cecily. For long, slender Cecily was a toe dancer and wore fancier clothes than most of them. And she had her black satin bag with her precious white satin ballet slippers hung over her shoulders. Today was a day for her dancing lessons. Maddie sat down on the granite curbstone to tie her shoelaces. She listened happily to what they were saying. They all seemed especially jolly today, probably because it was such a bright day. Everything sparkled. Way down at the end of the street, the sun shimmered and turned to the silver blue of the water of the bay. Maddie picked up a piece of broken mirror and flashed a small circle of light edged with rainbow colors on the houses, the trees, and the top of the telegraph pole. And it was then that Wanda had come along with her brother Jake. They didn't often come to school together. Jake had to get to school very early because he helped Mr. Heaney, the school janitor, with the furnace or raking up the dry leaves or other odd jobs before school opened. Today, he must be late. Even Wanda looked pretty in this sunshine, and her pale blue dress looked like a piece of the sky in the summer. And that old gray toboggan cap she wore, it must have been something Jake had found. It looked almost jaunty. Maddie watched them absent-mindedly as she flashed her own piece of broken mirror here and there. And only absent-mindedly she noticed Wanda stop short when they reached the crowd of laughing and shouting girls. "Come on," Maddie heard Jake say. "I gotta hurry. I gotta get the doors open and the bell ring." "You go the rest of the way," said Wanda. "I want to stay here." Jake shrugged and went on up Maple. Wanda slowly approached the group of girls. With each step forward, before she put her foot down, she seemed hesitant for a long, long time. She approached the group as a timid animal might, ready to run if anything alarmed it. Even so, Wanda's mouth was twisted into the vaguest suggestion of a smile. She must feel happy too, because everybody must feel happy on such a day. As Wanda joined the outside fringe of girls, Maddie stood up and went over close to Peggy to get a good look at Cecily's new dress herself. She forgot about Wanda, and more girls kept coming up, enlarging the group, and all exclaiming about Cecily's new dress. "Isn't it lovely?" said one. "Yeah, I have a blue dress. It's not as pretty as that," said another. "My mother just made me a plaid one with Stuart plaids." "I got a new dress for dancing school." "I'm going to make my mother make me one just like Cecily's." Everyone was talking to everybody else. Nobody said anything to Wanda, but there she was, part of the crowd. The girls closed in a tighter circle around Cecily, starting all to talk at once, admiring her. And Wanda was somehow enveloped in the group. Nobody talked to Wanda, but nobody even thought about her being there. Maybe, thought Maddie, remembering what had happened, maybe she figured all she had to do was say something and she'd really be one of the girls. And this would be an easy thing to do because all they were doing was talking about dresses. Maddie was standing next to Peggy. Maddie was standing next to Peggy. Wanda was standing next to Peggy on the other side. All of a sudden, Wanda impulsively touched Peggy's arm and said something. Her light blue eyes were shining, and she looked excited like the rest of the girls. "What?" asked Peggy, for Wanda had spoken softly. Wanda hesitated for a moment, and she repeated her words firmly. "I got 100 dresses." "That's what I thought you said. 100 dresses? 100? Peggy's voice raised itself higher and higher. "Hey, kids," she yelled, "this girl's got 100 dresses." Silence greeted this, and the crowd, which had centered around Cecily and her new finery, now centered around Wanda and Peggy. The girls eyed Wanda, first incredulously, then suspiciously. 100 dresses, they said. "Nobody could have 100 dresses." "I have, though." "Wanda has 100 dresses. Where are they, then?" "They're in my closet." "Oh, you don't wear them to school?" No, they're for parties." "Oh, you mean you don't have everyday dresses?" "Yes, I have all kinds of dresses." "Well, why don't you wear them to school?" For a moment, Wanda was silent to this. Her lips drew together. Then she repeated stolidly, as though it were a lesson learned in school. 100 of them, all lined up." "Oh, I see," said Peggy, talking like a grown-up person. "The child has 100 dresses, but she wouldn't wear them to school. Perhaps she's worried of getting ink or chalk on them." With this, everybody fell to laughing and talking at once. Wanda looked stolidly at them, pursing her lips together, wrinkling her forehead up so that the gray toboggan slipped way down over her brow. Suddenly, from down the street, the school gong rang its first warning. "Oh, come on, hurry," said Maddie, relieved. "We'll be late." "Goodbye, Wanda," said Peggy. "Your 100 dresses sound beautiful." More shouts of laughter greeted this, and off the girls ran, laughing and talking and forgetting Wanda and her 100 dresses. Forgetting until tomorrow and the next day and the next, when Peggy, seeing her coming to school, would remember and ask her about the 100 dresses. For now, Peggy seemed to think today was lost if she had not done some fun with Wanda, winning the approving laughter of the girls. Yes, that was the way it all began, the game of the 100 dresses. It all happened so suddenly and unexpectedly, with everybody falling right in, that even if you felt uncomfortable as Maddie had, there wasn't anything you could do about it. Maddie wagged her head up and down. Yes, she repeated to herself, that was the day it began, that bright blue day. And she wrapped up her shavings and went to the front of the room to empty them in the teacher's basket. The end of chapter 3.